Good. Thanks all for joining. Really appreciate you taking the time to have the session with this exciting subject about wood and wellbeing. And we've brought this together with our partners Havwoods from the United Kingdom. And we've got Simon and Myatt with us this morning, calling from London. Didn't be in on their time, so really appreciate him coming on board. He's a specialist working with Havwoods London designers with specification of wood floors and timber wall finishes. So we've got the panelists shown on the screen now that will be interacting. The bulk of the session will be taken over by Simon, and then we'll have questions and answers at the end. So just going through the contents of the session today, we'll just kickstart with a quick update from the UK, just to give the callers today an update what's happening on the English side of the world. Over to you, Simon.
Thank you, Jimmy. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. This is really great, and I want to say a special thank you actually to New Zealand, because you're really on the map in the international sphere. Because obviously this week, we started off the week on Sunday with the Prime Minister announcing to us that a certain Jenny McGee from Invercargill, way down there in the south, is saving his life. So of course, you know, the spotlight really is on New Zealand, so thank you. Bit of an update from the UK in terms of how the marketplace is and what we're seeing happening. Obviously, we're all of us internationally in a really interesting shifting scene. But the good news today was that as a result of the government's intervention in helping to try and keep the economy working and running, some of the major construction sites are now going to be able to reopen at a limited capacity, but with new safety protocol in place. So what we're seeing is the sun effectively is going to rise again on the economy kick-starting. So where we've been kind of, yes, we're sitting at home in lockdown and we're working, we were able to continue working with architects and interior designers on specification, the sites had been closing. They're all beginning to reopen. So that's really, it's very positive and very exciting. So I'm going to move on now through the presentation, the CPD presentation, the subject of wood and wellbeing. So I guess just briefly, Havwoods as an organisation started in 1975 in the north of England, and cutting a long story short, what really happened with the mushroom cloud of activity and then international expertise and influence was when we started working with the architects and design community and being specified and understanding the needs of architects and interior designers. So that's hugely important to us and all of our partners, is understanding the needs of architects and interior designers. So as we move on through, the first slide, which will come up, refers to the aims of what we're going to learn from today's presentation. What we're going to cover off as we go through the presentation is what is meant by well-being and why it's important, and what healthy buildings are, what are healthy materials, how wood and well-being affects us, and how we can influence well-being by design. Now, as I said, we covered off the aims. Now, I want to go straight in to talk about the kind of locations and sites and places where you find wood flooring, because there's a preconception as to where wood can be found in terms of flooring or wall cladding or ceilings and that sort of thing, and it can be used in many more locations than we may be allowing for quite often. Now, jumping straight to here, October's Very Own, which is a brand that we're very proud to be working with. I noticed, so this brand OVO is co-founded by the Canadian hip hop star. And in fact, Drake, I noticed he's actually made a big hit since lockdown. 2.4 billion views on a recent dance move or something that he's done in the last couple of weeks. So we're right at the front there in fashion, this fashion collective, if you like, music fashion collective. And this store here, the OVO store, it was the first store in London where they chose, thanks for noticing, the Havwoods flooring on the floor there in this retail store. But it's not just fashion and retail, it's not just bars and restaurants. We move on to CBRE, which is of course the real estate organisation, huge real estate organisation. This location here is Manchester in the UK, and you see the beautiful Versailles pattern flooring. Okay, so we've now looked at retail, using wood flooring for retail and for workspace. But obviously, in our homes, residential, bars, restaurants, hotels, amenity spaces, all over the world, there are so many different spaces where wood can be used, and it's beneficial for wood to be used. So let's move on to talk more now about the health aspect, health buildings. What are healthy buildings, and what does health mean? Well, health isn't just defined by whether or not I get out of breath running up and down the stairs. Health is a far more important matter than that. Health, according to the World Health Organization. Now, we've obviously seen quite a bit from the WHO, haven't we, in the last few weeks and months, and you know, everyone's got the perception of what's going on. But the important thing is that they're focusing on health. And what they've stated, the World Health Organization, that health is a state of complete, so physical, mental, and social well-being. So it's every part of what we do. Health is every part of what we do, physical, mental, and social well-being. Well-being, what is well-being? Or psychology today tells us that well-being is the experience of health, happiness, prosperity, good mental health, high life satisfaction, and a sense of meaning or purpose. Now, we all know, don't we, that if we've got a good sense of purpose, so we're enjoying our day or what we're doing, we've got a good sense of meaning and purpose around what we're doing, and we're prospering, we start to feel good. That is well-being. Now, I want to move on to a quote from Hal Levin, who stated in 1995 that a healthy building is one that adversely affects neither the health of the occupants or the larger environment. So we need to go beyond eliminating the negative impacts and have positive impacts on our health by design. Now, here we have a startling statistic. Now, we spend 90% of our time indoors. That's according to the United States Environmental Protection Agency. I believe that statistic will probably have changed in the last few weeks. I know that since I got up this morning, now, yeah, it's 14 minutes past 11 or whatever it is here, PM. But since I got up this morning, I have spent probably about 20 minutes outside during what I would call my lunch break. The rest of the time I've been indoors. Yeah, it's a little bit unusual at the moment. We may be spending more than 90% of our time indoors, but we just want to consider that this indoors that we're talking about needs to be very well designed, because this is what's going to affect our health. Big subject, mental health, because as we've gone through 2019 and into 2020, the whole subject of mental health has been destigmatized and has kind of progressed. It's okay to talk about mental health now, but and that's a subject which has been difficult to talk about, maybe has been difficult to bring up, and especially in a commercial setting. But it's now okay to talk about, and it's okay to design with mental health in mind. I think it's really actually important that we realise that it does affect us all. This is a statement from the National Health Service here in the UK. 1 in 4 adults experiences at least one diagnosable mental health problem in any given year. So possibly startling, and then you stop to think about it, and some of our, in the last couple of weeks anyway, some of our mental health has been a bit stretched, to say the least. You know, itchy feet and pot bound and whatever else. But the fact of the matter is that it is going to come to all of us. It affects all of us. So we want to identify what affects our mental health. Well, the environment, the space we spend our time in, has a massive effect on our mental health. Now, this picture on the left-hand side, the setting you can see here is an office in central London. Thanks for noticing the wood floor, yes, obviously, and the beautiful Kentia palms and the natural light flooding in there. That's a space that's really, really enjoyable to be in. In fact, when I visited that location twice since it's been installed, and it's actually quite difficult to leave, because when you come to go, you know that you've got to be faced with the hubbub of the filthy streets outside of the busy part of London. Now, staying inside makes you feel good. There's that natural light, there's the plants, there's the wood. It's a good place to be. The space on the right-hand side that we see here on the slide, I don't even want to walk in there, thank you. I just wouldn't want to spend any time there. And that's because it looks so awful, and there's nothing natural in there making us feel good. So the things that determine our mental health are the spaces we're in and the things around us. Now, I love this slide. Happy, healthy people. Okay, that's what we all want to be, seek to be. But happy, healthy people, not just for our own sake, but because we become productive and we become creative, as it says. So obviously, our health and a healthy building should be one that supports psychological, physical, social health, and so on, so that we're feeling good about the space we're in. We're feeling good about well-being. We're feeling good about what we're doing, and it won't only benefit us on a personal level, but also more broadly, happy, healthy people are they're good for the economy. You make creative, productive people add to their professional lives. Therefore, healthy buildings offer potential for businesses and the whole global economy as a whole, just by being happy, healthy people. And we can design for that. Okay, so we move on to talk about healthy buildings and why are healthy buildings important. So let's just briefly, when I'm talking about healthy building now, the building itself being healthy for the wider environment, the environmental benefit. Here is a time-lapse video starting in the early 1900s and running straight past the day I was born up until 2017, and it was getting warmer and warmer. Let's just rerun that. 1800s, past the 30s, 40s. This is global warming. Pretty stark, isn't it? So we stopped there at 2017. Imagine what it'd be like if we brought that up to 2020. Yeah. And there's no doubt about it. We know that humans have had a part to play. We can't deny that. We know that, and it's become starkly real and obvious to us recent months and years. Carbon dioxide is at an unprecedented level, and sea levels are set to continue to rise. So little islands like New Zealand and British Isles will be paddling before too long. But seriously, the Greenland and Arctic sheets have been melting, glaciers receding. The good news is that we're aware of it, because we haven't been, and humankind hasn't been aware of it. Now, this picture you'll see here is actually quite old, because it's before the Extinction Rebellion, which happened certainly in the UK. I'm not sure how global it's become. In the background, you'll see Big Ben there wrapped in scaffolding, which Big Ben still is wrapped in scaffolding. So you'll see it's a current matter. But what's happening is people are protesting, taking to the streets to make sure that we do something about this disaster that's at hand, this climate crisis. So we can all have our part to play, especially in the design marketplace, of helping to bring that back. So healthy buildings, what makes a building healthy? So in the TRADA, which is the TRADA is the Timber Research and Development Association, they published this report, The Role of Wood in Healthy Buildings. And Dr. Ed Suttie states that a building should go beyond eliminating negative effects on health to be a building that has positive effects. Now, that we said that, we referred to that earlier, didn't we? This refers to the buildings themselves as well. Now, what features make a building healthy? Well, for a start, windows that let in plenty of natural daylight and open fully for ventilation. Now, I haven't got daylight coming in my window here. You guys can't see it. I have got a window open. It's an ambient 12 degrees outside now. It's really been a lovely day. But the thing is that we've got windows and we know about it, and we know what the weather's been today, and we know we've got fresh air coming in. Sufficient storage that enables functional living. Now, I'm naturally a very cluttered kind of person, but I can function far better once I've put things away and once things have got a home. So sufficient storage and designing so that we've got sufficient storage for the people that are using a space. Sound insulation to prevent disturbance between neighbours, sense of privacy, but also the open plan spaces to encourage social interaction. Never before have we known what it means, what social interaction means, and how much we need it, and how we can design for it, optimize social interaction, but as well as a sense of privacy. So, as we move on, going to look at two frameworks that support all this. So biophilia, biophilic design is I am hugely passionate about it because I've worked in horticulture in years gone by and kind of connect with nature anyway. But the meaning of biophilia, bio obviously means nature and philia means love. So it's a term given to humans' innate connection with nature. And this was first kind of popularized, this whole biophilia subject, or this whole sphere was popularized by Edward Wilson in 1984, so 35 years ago, and he wrote a book called BIOPHILIA. Now, biophilic design, what is this biophilic design? What is the theory? Well, it's the, as we said, the innate connection between humans and nature. Now, of course, if you go back, that picture on the left-hand side, if you go back to the days of hunting and gathering and planting crops and so on, our ability to survive, our survival related directly to the environment we were in, okay? So where we placed ourselves in terms of near to food sources, somewhere safe from predators, where we had shelter from the rain, etc., where we placed ourselves had direct effect on our survival. Guess what? Humans haven't changed. 2020, we still need to design to make the best of our biophilic tendencies and to ensure that we survive, but more than that, to thrive in the spaces we're designing. And that's why we bring nature in. We can bring nature in directly or indirectly. So bringing nature into a design directly, that's plants, interior planting, natural light, fishes, fish tanks, pets. Who's got, I don't know how many would have the office dog, the pet dog in the office, or maybe you have pets at home. But this is bringing nature into your living space, and we connect with that. We work well with it. So we want to tap into these biophilic tendencies, because the whole biophilic, our biophilic tendencies they help our health in multiple ways. But there's also indirect contact with nature. The Karlstads University in Sweden did a study in 2010, and they discovered that simulated natural environments also facilitate stress reduction. So that might be kind of biomorphic forms, or you can see the patterns that relate to a shell, or whether it's, even if it's water droplets, even printed water droplets simulating the real thing, has the effect, has a positive effect on our sense of well-being. So natural materials are a great way to integrate, whether directly or indirectly. Thanks for noticing the beautiful walnut there in the top right-hand side, and these other wonderful wooden surfaces that you can specify and use. But you can bring nature in, whether it be wood or whether it be not. But the point is, bringing nature in, it taps into our biophilic tendencies, and even the complexity of nature itself, the beauty of the cathedrals in the wood, or whatever it is. It taps into our biophilic tendencies, and the kind of repetitions of nature calms us down, quite literally. And that's what Karlstads University found out. So moving on to another framework, what I refer to is the Wellbeing Standard, which was, the Institute was founded in 2013, and it is dedicated to transforming buildings and helping people thrive. It's now in its second iteration, and it focuses on how buildings can be created to adapt, can be created and adapted to enhance users' wellness in the spaces they're in. So, and this standard has been adopted by a lot of architects, interior designers, developers all around the world. This slide here refers to 18 countries, 256 projects. That's quite an old statistic now. You see, that's January 2019. I need to get that updated. But the point is, it's growing fast. And as I say, it's now its second iteration. In its version 2, which was launched in 2018, it's structured around 10 concepts. You've got air, water, nourishment, light, movement, thermal comfort, sound, materials, mind, and community. Now, obviously, by bringing in various elements into a design, we can earn points. So what we're trying to do is buildings can score points in each of these sectors, these categories, and by meeting the criteria, they scores points that will build up to the accreditation of, obviously you want to get as high as you can. Often certified gold or platinum can be reached by bringing in nature into design. So that I had a look at what is happening in Australasia and New Zealand, and this whole thing is becoming very popular. There are many schemes around the world, but they all kind of focus on the same sort of thing. The Well standard is designed to work with the Green Building Standards here in the UK, and the the purpose is that you can use it with a new build from the outset, but with the different tiers of achievement and assessment, it's evidence-based. So the performance of the building as time goes by, you can have ongoing performance feedback. So you can get a different score as you could introduce this for an existing building build, because there's this ongoing evidence-based tests for performance feedback and getting an updated score. So I hope that all kind of makes sense. I'm going to move on to healthy materials. So we've into the next section, section 3. So what are healthy materials? It's, in short, it's a key to a healthy building, should we say. Let's run through some the natural materials, some of the features of that natural materials. So we've got obviously a low chemical content. The fire resistance is an interesting subject. Hygroscopic and breathable, obviously low or zero embodied carbon, flexibility and recyclability. The reason why I say that about fire resistance is obviously the straw in the bottom picture there is going to burn well. But the point is there's things that can be done when introducing natural materials into a building which can inhibit flames. So fire retardancy, you can get many, many different ways of achieving high performance in fire resistance with natural materials, which is another whole massive subject in itself. Let's move on to a couple of case studies in this subject. The Gateway building, which is in Nottingham, it was by Make Architects. They've used straw in the cavities within the walls for insulation. Now the straw was actually grown in their own farmland, so it's locally sourced. As we move on to the BUSHEY cemetery, I'm fascinated by this one, ever fascinated by this one, by Havwoods Architects. Round earth, and how appropriate for a cemetery. This is, I've not actually seen this site myself yet, but BUSHEY's just kind of north, just outside North London, where they've used rammed earth for a cemetery. Then we move on to a bit further around the world for me here in London, round to Kengo Kuma and his work. And he was perusing, and he thought the fresh green light that filtered down through the leaves was invigorating, and the straight, clean growth was warmer than metal or tile. For the longest time, I dreamed of making spaces like that bamboo growth. He's tapped into the emotional connection of something, an emotional feeling he had when he was at a location with bamboo and he wanted to bring it into architecture. So that's bringing nature in to connect with an emotional feeling of well-being. So we're going to talk about the health and well-being benefits of wood. Now, at this point, if I was there in 3 dimension, I start passing around sweeties and stuff and, chocolate. So we start getting a bit, we've got to discuss this whole matter of stress, which is, we're well au fait with stress, aren't we? We don't want to admit it, but we do know what stress is. And now this statement at the bottom here, I'm feeling is possibly a little bit, maybe I should have cut it out before we did this presentation, but workplace stress is the health epidemic of the 21st century. That may be a bit of a historical statement to make now because there's far more dramatic things on hand. Doesn't change the fact that our stress levels can be through the roof. So what is stress? What is this stress epidemic? Well, when we're stressed, we're gonna feel tired, can't concentrate. Tired, but finding sleeping difficult, just not getting off at night, suffering maybe headaches, muscle tensions, back of the neck, anxious, pessimistic, still can't get to sleep, mood swings, irritable, irritating to be around, quite possibly, disinterested in work, can't focus at work, not even at work, maybe there in body, but not actually there because you're stressed. We know it, don't we? Now, the point is, the good thing is that what's been proven is wood helps reduce stress. So that was the punchline. But now, let me show you how we can prove this. Exposure to wooden surfaces has been proven to reduce stress, has a calming effect on us. In fact, being around wooden surfaces in interiors can have the same effect of kind of a sense of rejuvenation as going for a walk in a forest or going out and being amongst nature. Now, this slide, these rooms here are awful, aren't they? But what's really interesting is that this is where a test was carried out. Okay, and participants were asked to carry out their normal daily tasks in these rooms, and they had what is the SNS, sympathetic nervous system. The SNS, sympathetic nervous system, was being measured. And what happens with the sympathetic nervous system is when it's activated, it raises your blood pressure and heart rate. It's your body preparing for stress, okay? It also inhibits digestion as well, and other things as well. The point was that they measured people's stress levels. They measured people's SNS before they went into these spaces. So when they're doing their normal day job in a normal place, and then now take your work into this space here and do it again. And what they found was that the spaces where there was wood, you can see the wood, the wood veneer and the wood effect in these rooms. Where there was wood, the SNS activation was lower. The stress level was lower where there was wood in these environments. So working environments that featured wood help reduce stress levels in the indoor environment. It helps with our physical and mental well-being. So if you think about, we're helping the physical and mental well-being of the occupants of these spaces, they're going to be more productive, more creative, more enjoyable to be around. This is where we want to be. Another interesting a little subject is about what wood does for the lungs. Now, we've heard of VOCs, haven't we? Now, according to a study done in the United States, the air inside our homes is often more polluted than the air outside. Now, that takes some thinking about. But if you think about VOCs, if you think about even just dust and aerosols and things like that, and other things we have indoors that can give off, pollution, actually pollutants, the air indoors is more seriously polluted than the air outside. Surprising. But the good news about VOCs, volatile organic compounds, is that there are some good ones. So not the VOCs, we tend to think about the VOCs that have a long or short-term damage to our health, but there's also positive ones. Now, there's a compound which is emitted by pine trees, which is known for its anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. So that's good news, is that if we literally, if you were to go to those Himalayan cedars and sniff them, it would reduce our blood pressure. It reduces our stress levels. This is, if you walk into a wood flooring showroom, you will notice the smell, wafting smell. Okay, that is positive VOCs that are good for you. Now, imagine bring that whole concept into the spaces you're designing. You're helping to reduce stress just by the aroma. Wood and our conscience. This is Planet Arc, which is an Australian organisation, did this study to look beyond the biological benefits and look into how participants felt from a conscience point of view about using different materials. Now you can see that you've got wood, brick, concrete, steel, aluminium and plastic, but wood's right there at the top. Why? Because the perception is that it creates a natural cozy feel, cozy and warm, visually appealing, nice to touch, environmentally friendly, because of course all sustainably sourced. Very important that everything that's supplied is sustainably sourced, which of course we are very close to making sure that we have all the certification needed for the various different nations and spaces that wood is supplied to. And of course at the end there on the right hand side, it's relatively cheap. So it's relatively low cost. So as you weigh this up, it's the whole conscience matter of using wood. We score right at the top there, right the way across. So culturally, it's a very, very positive thing. And we interpret wood, when we see wood surfaces around, we interpret it as a positive thing. We interpret it, it makes us feel good. Obviously, it's more, as I said, more environmentally friendly than most other surfaces as well. So we want to be furnished with wood and timber. So a bit of an overview of what we've talked about so far. To summarise, I wish that was my home office there. I wouldn't need the hat on today. The weather's been good. The benefits of wood: reduced blood pressure, reduced heart rate, feeling more relaxed, improved ability to focus, improved emotional state, and improved ability to be creative and express ourselves and be more productive in that respect, as well as reducing pain, which I'm going to come on to. So we've got a few case studies here. This one here is the DYSON Centre for Neonatal Care. Now, the presence of natural materials in this hospital here is noticeable, and I'll tell you the story behind why the cross-laminated timber and the timber effect and the timber features you can see here in this hospital at the DYSON Centre for Neonatal Care in Bath in the UK. Now, there's a professor in 1984 called Dr. Roger Ulrich, who made a study, and he created a report called "View Through a Window May Influence Recovery from Surgery." Now, what they did was they studied patients who were having surgery, and after the surgery, they put them into various different rooms for to recover from surgery. What they found was that the patients who went into rooms that had a view of trees and nature recovered quicker and took less painkillers and had less post-operative complications than those who stayed in rooms with windows overlooking walls. So the whole concept of that study and that report, "View Through a Window May Influence Recovery from Surgery," the whole result of that study is what was used here at the DYSON Centre for Neonatal Care, which was designed by Field and Clay Bradley Studios. So important to have a view of trees, a view of nature. Okay, I'm going to move on to MAGGIE'S of Oldham. Now, this is another interesting story because I don't know how many of the audience today have experienced cancer and chemotherapy. Now, MAGGIE'S is a charity which takes care of patients who are recovering from or are suffering with cancer and having chemotherapy. Now, one of the side effects of chemotherapy, I believe, I've never had it myself, one of the side effects of chemotherapy can be that you experience numbness and tingling in the extremities, so hands, feet, nose. And one of the most uncomfortable things is actually the simple matters like visiting the bathroom. So here, this picture you see in the bottom left-hand corner of a solid wood handle, the whole concept, the whole purpose here, quite apart from all the beautiful wooden surfaces you see in these the other pictures on the slide here, was those wooden handles that have massive meaning for the occupants, for the people staying at the MAGGIE'S Centre in Oldham. That was by DRMM. Montessori Schoolhouse. The whole concept of Montessori Schoolhouse education and learning is a completely different way of learning for children, where it's kind of student-led and it's very creative, but you can see that they tap into this whole concept of being surrounded by wood and nature in these designs in order to enrich the education, enrich the studying experience of the children. So as we move on to what is the future of wood and wellbeing, what I'm glad to say is that now this statement here from Trada in 2019, timber has quietly jostled its way to the front of the queue and becoming the architect's material of choice. We're pleased about that because the whole experience economy, so I understand, the whole experience economy is now far greater, far greater, billions of pounds greater or dollars greater than the pharmaceutical industry. Now that's fascinating because that means that people are spending far more money on how they feel and what they experience. So the feelings they have and the experiences they have, they're spending more money on that than they are spending in the pharmaceutical industry. So hence it's so important that to give users of spaces the best experience possible, we kind of home in on this whole thing to give the best experience in design by using products which give that experience. I think that kind of sums up, Jimmy, what all that we've talked about. So there's the conscience, there's the well-being, there's the looking after the planet, because obviously we want to be using sustainable materials. There's the personal health benefits and the corporate health benefits, the economical health benefits. There are so many reasons why to use wood in interior design. I'll hand back to you now, whether you carry on.
That's excellent, Simon. Really insightful, informative presentation. Just a little bit off script, but would it be very informative to the attendees? Just give them a bit of a background on the FSC certification and the Cradle to Cradle certification that you hold. That would tie into this really well.
Yeah, certainly, yeah. So FSC certification is a big subject because FSC is a chain of custody, and it relates to how items are purchased, how wood is purchased. And so what's very, very important when sourcing wood that's FSC certified, it's not just about where the wood's come from, but at each invoicing point, from the grower to the harvester to the mills, right through to where it's being used on site. At every invoicing point, the organisation who's raising the invoice needs to be FSC certified in order for the chain of custody to carry right through. So the reason why we love FSC and we've invested heavily into it is because it means that we know and we can control, and there's a paper chain, if you like, of exactly where the wood came from, the journey it's made, who's handled it, and that we know it's all sustainable, and it's safe and it's documented.
That's excellent. And just further to that, in relation to the Cradle to Cradle, obviously this is quite a new certification process, and I think we're the first to bring that to New Zealand with your product. Could you give a brief overview on what that process is?
I'll be absolutely honest with you, Jimmy. I don't know very much about the Cradle to Cradle certification, in that I don't know I don't understand the whole chain of the meaning behind the certification. And having had this conversation, I will definitely make it my business to be an expert by the time we next speak.
That's awesome. No worries at all. So just moving on, we've got obviously we've got some questions coming in. We'll cover those off very shortly. And just showing you some quick project highlights. I've worked with some of New Zealand's leading architects on New Zealand, bringing these natural materials into these spaces. You can obviously see the effect they have across both residential, apartments, hotel, commercial office spaces. So even though Simon's focused a lot on the more commercial market, these same design principles also apply to the residential side of things as well. So just a quick overview of some of the projects, including the architects that these have been used on. So just moving on to the fact we do, just summarise in relation to the stock, we do hold a lot of these products in stock in New Zealand. Obviously supply chains are a challenge at the moment, and we are focused on holding products available for quick delivery post lockdown, obviously. And so if there's any inquiries you need for any sort of products, that they are available on the short-term lead time. We are working on a lot more developments to bring to the market over the coming months, and some innovative new products and processes which we'll be able to bring to the architecture community to further incorporate or give more design scope to bring this whole wellbeing topic into the design that we've covered off this morning. Quick reminder on the showrooms, obviously these will be closed at the moment. Hopefully we can open these relatively shortly with the developments, positive news that's coming. And we look forward to welcoming you into these spaces, obviously with a lot of large panels and space to work with our team to design your projects. And then just a brief project snapshot of the space we're currently developing in Wellington. This was close to opening prior to lockdown, so we'll be opening shortly after. So really looking forward to being able to welcome you into that space in the near future. Everyone would have recently got the Vita book. So this is an ongoing publication with all our current products and designs in them and project profiles. So if anyone wants any of that, just definitely reach out to one of the team. We can post those through to you along with any free samples that you're after. We can put these on back order and get these shipped out as soon as the lockdown finishes. Just a quick reminder of the team that we've got available. Everyone is still available and working. More than happy to answer any questions, challenges, any designs you're working on. Happy to work through these with you, so we can keep the ball rolling. It's good. And just quickly, questions come in Simon, you may be able to help us out on this one here. So have wood look products, e.g. melamine, vinyl, wallpapers, etc., been studied to see if they achieve the same benefits of real wood in wellbeing design?
Yes, in the perception of them. If you were to walk into a space that has a wood look effect, it would have it has a similar effect in reducing stress in terms of what it does to the perception as you walk into a space that has these features. However, obviously, it hasn't got the tactile, hasn't got the sound reduction, hasn't got the aroma, quite literally, hasn't got a lot of what is important in using wood to give that effect. But yes, absolutely. That's why we referred earlier to even the printed water droplets on a surface is better than having a plain white surface, if that answers the question.
That's really good and helpful. So just following this, unless there's any more questions coming in, we will be sending through an email covering off some of the key content that has been required, and then we'll include a link to the recording, which will be on our website by the end of the day. So just, Aaron, did you have a comment to make?
Thanks, Jimmy. Yeah, Simon, a couple other thoughts and or questions that have sort of come up. You talked briefly about the what do we call it, the effects on the body or the health of the body and things. I was wondering if you could talk about wood underfoot. There's obviously benefit to the body on the softness of the surface versus tiles and things. Can you comment on that quickly?
Yes, I don't know the qualified studies of what you're speaking about, but certainly know for myself and know that it's factual that obviously walking and walking on wood is better for the body, for the knees, for the ankles. It's better for the body because there's a certain amount of cushioning, and also it's more tactile. It feels better underfoot, feels softer underfoot, as well as the sound aspect. So there's multiple reasons why it would be more comfortable for the body to use wood than to use tiles. I'll be very interested to look into what studies have been done on the effects of the body, but certainly it feels far better and sounds far better to be walking on wood. Sounds natural. It's a more pleasant experience.
Yeah, and certainly, and it relates to the warmth also is different to tiles, of course. And can you just comment on finishes? You know, lacquer versus oil. Was there a difference in warmth there? Generally, you know, is that the change in experience for people?
Are you there, Aaron?
Sorry, I might have lost you.
Sorry.
There.
Yeah, sorry. Did you lacquered? What was the question?
Just asking if the warmth of the surface of an oil versus a lacquer. In my experience, a lacquer tends to be a little bit cooler.
Yes. Yeah. Again, I haven't looked into the studies that have been done on this, but certainly lacquer would be cooler because the effect is that a lacquered surface is effectively surface coated of the lacquer right across the surface of the wood, so you're not getting the porous feel of an oil of the oil. Because with an aluminium oxide lacquer, yes, it's going to be colder to touch. With an oil floor, the oil's soaked right in, so what you're touching when you're treading or when you're touching the surface of an oil floor, it is the tactile surface that's just saturated and absorbed with the oil finish.
Excellent. Thanks, Simon. We've had another question come in, which we might leave to another session from Erica, just about what kind of design flexibility do your products have. So that's obviously another whole subject by itself, which we can reapproach on another series. So yeah, really appreciate your time. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll follow through with an email, and we really appreciate any feedback. And we'll send through a link to the recording. And just keep an eye out for our next series coming up with Maxine from DecoSpan from Belgium, into a lot more informative, detailed session around the manufacture of timber veneers and panels. So really appreciate your time, and thanks everyone who's joined today. Appreciate that. Thanks, Simon.